Winston Churchill said those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it. This is our story, my story, which I must now tell you since a lot of your friends say we failed your generation. They have said we didn't fight for a better Nigeria, and thus you have inherited our mess. A nation of inconsistencies, a nation steeped in evil and corrupt practices, a nation whose rivulets, streams and rivers flow the blood of the innocent. The true story as it concerns me. At the time I was born, the Civil War was just over. My late father, your grandfather's generation, were the Civil War generation. They saw our nation gain independence, saw the early coups that led to civil war, saw the end of the war and transition to civil rule, and then back to military rule. I remember then as a young boy the coup that brought in General Buhari as head of state and the coup that toppled him. I was now in secondary school, the University of Benin Demonstration Secondary School to be precise. This school was domiciled within the university campus, so the very first riot I experienced and participated in was as a secondary school student. It was the SAP riots. I didn't understand so much of what the students were fighting for then, other than the fact that handbills were shared to us, showing the ultra-luxury life of the Babangida government officials, whilst we had been told to tighten our belts. They said IBB had deceived the nation, that it was not going to go ahead with the IMF economic program, but then went ahead with the same program under a different name. Uniben erupted and we were carried along. Street fires, Molotov cocktails, tear gas, you name it. I experienced it. The Benin prison was set on fire and hundreds of prisoners were released. Several people died in the SAP riots, but fortunately, I survived it like many others. The riots and subsequent school closures led to the migration of Nigerian students to Western nations to continue their education. General Babangida eventually bowed out under pressure after the protest that greeted his failed June 12th election, widely believed to have been won by the late Abiola, and handed over the reins of government to Ernest Shoneko. We, the Nigerian students and labor, continued the protests. Then General Abacha took over in November of 1993 and started his own political program. He moved to Abuja in January of 1994 to avoid the political heat from Lagos. But this didn't deter labor or the students. Did I mention I was already in the University of Benin at this point? On June 11, 1994, Chief MKO Abiola declares himself President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the eve of the first anniversary of June 12th, in an attempt to claim his June 12th, 1993 presidential mandate at Ebetedo, Lagos Island. He goes into hiding after the declaration for fear of being arrested. He is arrested on the 23rd of June 1994 on charges of treason, and on the 5th of July 1994, Upeng and Pengasan begin the longest strike in the history of Nigeria to protest the annulment of the June 12th election of 1993. And 3 days later, we, the Nigerian students from Lagos, Edo, Ondo, Ogun and Oyo, hit the streets in what is now known as the June 12th riots. Mike Guinea, who is now an INEC rec, was the president of the student union government, and I will never forget his rallying cry of greatest Uniben students, and his signature phrase of any attempt or group of attempts or attempted attempts. This was all we needed to hear. It was all I needed. We went out knowing we were dealing with the most brutal dictator in Africa, and oh, he showed us how brutal he was. Benin and Epuma were on fire, and eventually Abacha sent units from the north to come after us. They came after me and had my name. They raped and killed students, and I watched the horror as I ran through the bushes at night. I escaped from the school a few days later through the help of a lecturer who dressed me as a girl and ran to the family house in Benin. I will be forever traumatized by the screams of those girls and the bloodied bodies of students on the streets. And guess what? They crushed the riots until today. There was never any panel of inquiry to look into what the mobile police and military did to us then. Parents grieved quietly. Some girls who were raped denied this to hide their shame, and some didn't return to the school. The refugee migration to Canada began in earnest. Abacha crushed the street protest, but the protest lived on in our hearts. We have not forgotten. A certain lion always speaks about how they, Nadeko, fought to actualize June 12th. But the truth, my son, is that it was the students, the youths and labor that faced the bullets of the military junta. We paid the price for the democracy you enjoyed under Obasanjo, Yar'Adua and Jonathan. Moshood Abiola paid the supreme sacrifice. His wife Kudirat and countless others known and unknown fought for the democracy that we so easily surrendered. It seems that because we haven't really told our stories, some of you let your guard down and let President Jonathan and the same lion who claims he defended democracy take us back to Egypt. So here we are, almost 3 decades later, and history is about to repeat itself. The youths are protesting, Benin is on fire, the prisoners have been set free, and the police and military are on the streets. The difference now is that the youths have food, drinks and music as they protest. Organized labor seems to be in the pockets of government, and you have social media to let the world know the exact details of what's going on and who has been killed or maimed. You also have COVID-19 to contend with, and my biggest worry is that COVID will decimate Nigerians since we have thrown all caution to the winds. I pray for you, my son. I pray for the youths of my country, and I pray for my country. I also pray for myself. My heart is still in the streets, and the streets I must go to. The battle for a better country is a moral fight for every citizen. The truth will surely come out one day, so don't worry about those who are still being deceived by the oppressors. Our only mission is to save Nigeria, and if any of us doesn't make it back home, tell our families, tell our children, tell Nigerians the true story of what happened. God bless you all.